So anyway, I guess we ought to get started on the call. Kevin, are you on the line?
I am here.
Okay, fantastic. Well, this is a really exciting call for everyone. I work with Margaret Snow, who does a lot of funding for the students, transactional funding, and she also does some transactions for me as well. And she had sent me a report. She always tells me who's closing transactions, and I saw Kevin's name about 5 times on the report, and I was like, this is someone we need to interview and need to see what he's doing, because you closed 5 deals probably within a span of, 60 days or 30 days?
Yeah, within about 45 days.
Well, that's fantastic. So we're always interested in knowing and talking with people who have systems built up so that they can get the ball rolling and then be successful in having, closings every month or every other month, because sometimes, things don't actually fall in the same month, and then, you get a windfall one month and the other month's dry and so forth. So you're located in Georgia, right, Kevin?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm in Atlanta.
You're in the Atlanta area. So you have plenty of competition and plenty of business all rolled up in one.
I don't know about competition. I got a ton of business. I don't know about competition.
Okay, well, that's good. That's a good thing, because a lot of people in bigger cities tend to worry a little bit about competition. The other thing I want to point out about Georgia, it's a 21-day state. So when the bank actually files a foreclosure, they could actually foreclose as quickly as 21 days. Is that not correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, so tell us a little bit, Kevin, about how you're getting your leads, because that's a pretty successful business to be in such a short time frame state and be able to, facilitate 5 closings in 1 month.
Well, basically, I've started a process. I kind of worked through Jeff's program, the 9 deal, the 9 days, kind of started out with that, and I just kind of followed the process, kind of started with the pre-NOD list, did the yellow letter campaign, and also I went out and just canvassed and talked to realtors. After I got that baseline established, I kind of tried to work all the systems together and just started really marketing, doing the pre-NOD list, NOD list, sending out the yellow letters, customizing those, as well as getting 2 to 3 great realtors on my team to really help my business and help it grow. So from that standpoint, everything matriculated into a successful process, just following your and Jeff's processes as they were standing out.
That's fantastic. And to get to the 2 or 3 great realtors that you did get to, how many, for lack of a better word, dead ducks did you have to talk to get to the 2 or 3 great ones?
I would say about 65.
Okay. So I want everybody to be encouraged out here that he didn't really give up, and he kept going until he found the 2 or 3, great realtors. And a lot of you have been real successful on finding great realtors, because I talked to several of them on the phone as I'm participating with you in deals. So that's actually fantastic. The other question I have for you, so out of the most of the short sales that you are doing, are most of your better leads coming from the realtors or your yellow letter campaign, or do you just have a combination?
I think it's been a combination of both, from a standpoint of the leads that have come in from the yellow letters, as well as the realtors. And a lot of the ones that the realtor referrals have come through, they've been referrals from referrals, meaning I may have closed a transaction with one of the realtors' clients that they brought me. And in addition, those same clients either referred somebody back to me, or the other client had another house that they wanted to kind of go in the process. And once again, we gave them their pros and cons, kind of explained what their benefits were, went through their financial scenario, saw that they could not afford the property. At that point in time, went back through and gave them a great win-win scenario, and they gave me their other house. So they said they had a friend that wanted a house, and so it kind of been morphing into something else that's totally entirely from that respect.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. So let me ask you a question. It seems like you're spending time with the customer at no cost to them to, verify that their financial situation fits the short sale, because this is a really key point here. Not every property fit the scenario of a short sale. There might be a lot of over-leveraged properties out there, but each person's scenario actually has to fit a short sale, and most lenders are looking for a hardship, not with people with assets and that type of thing. Just like the bank takes a risk, you take a risk when you're buying a property. So as you're meeting with these homeowners, how much time would you say you have on the phone before you meet them in person so you know that you're not wasting your time in having physical meetings when you don't need to? Because a lot of people sort of, for lack of a better word, sort of chase their tail in circles, and then they feel exhausted and they don't have a deal yet.
Well, I think what has been great for me is that the realtors that I do now have on my team, and our background are from the standpoint of trying to pre-screen the leads, meaning that we were taught to kind of ask some questions up front, really try to drill down into some of the processes that, once again, you and Jeff taught in your 9 Days to 9 Deals catalog, and that asking the questions to the leads. But I kind of had the realtors to ask leads to the individual lead person that's going to be bringing them to the table. And at that point, we know that in our process, in our business, at the end of the day, the only thing we have up front is time. And so our time is most valuable up front when we're cultivating that lead to make sure that they can fit in that. So the realtors now are doing a lot of that pre-screening for me, because they know when it comes to me, it's about execution and efficiency. And what we're trying to do, once that lead comes through the pipeline, I can place it into production. That's what I call it. Once it's in production, we know we're going to get it to the bank. We're going to get a approval letter, or we're going to get some type of answer within that 2 to 3 month period of time. So from the lead standpoint, we only try to spend at least 30 minutes at most with that lead and asking some very pre-qualifying questions to try to see, can you or are you able to do this process, and will it be a benefit for you at the end of the day? So that's kind of what we do.
That's absolutely fantastic. So now you've trained your realtors to pre-screen your people. So now by the time that they get to you, they're pretty much prepped and ready to go. And now since the realtors have been able to close a couple of successful transactions with you, get a commission, they can really see that it works. And now they're hungry for those types of transactions, because a lot of agents sometimes think there's not benefits to working with investors, and there's a lot of benefits to working with investors, because some agents are not creative enough to structure some of these transactions where it is a win for everybody. And so now they're bringing you pre-screened leads. By the time you meet with the people, they're going to be pretty much ready to go. Now, do the realtors kind of prep them on what documentation they need to have, before they meet with you, so that
I just generally tell the realtors at that point in time, just give me their financials and let them know that I'm going to be getting them controlled documents over. And I try to keep those controlled documents not public knowledge, but even to the realtors, because once again, we understand that everybody loves duplication of someone else's processes. So I try to say, okay, get the controlled documents in place, which is let them know an authorization form is going to come. We need their financials, and we're going to get a listing agreement signed with them. Outside of that, I'll generally email them over the controlled documents that I want to be put in place. The lead sends me those documents back within a day or 24 hours, and at the end of the day, the file goes into production within a 2-day period of time after I generally talk to the lead, because I'm all over Atlanta, from a geographical radius standpoint. So I try to use my time and the travel time the most efficient manner.
You definitely need to use your travel time in the most efficient manner, because I've sat in some Atlanta traffic. And if you don't hit Atlanta at the right time, you'll be sitting there a long time.
Is there a right time in Atlanta?
You can't get in and out, plane, train, bus, automobile out of Atlanta. I don't care where we have to go. We have to go through Atlanta.
Hey, I got a question on something that you mentioned before. You said that there's a few key things that you have your realtors ask your potential clients to decide whether they're really going to fit into what you're looking for and see if they're really eligible as a good short sale candidate. For our students on the line, can you kind of go over some of those key questions that are the key information that you're looking for from clients?
Sure. What I generally do is once I have that agent that is on the team and that's on the process, and our time is most valuable because we know that we have to be a lot of different places because we're spread out in such a large vicinity. I just have the realtor to ask the question, are you serious about the process, number one, because we don't charge you any money up front. We don't ask for any referral fees, anything on those lines, because in order to have a successful transaction, we have to close the transaction. That HUD has to be approved by the lender, number one. So at the end of the day, if that is done and if that done correctly, it will be in the best interest of yourself, the realtor, and all of the team members above that are on the team, as well as it will be a benefit for you at the end of the day, which you get an approved short sale, which is much more beneficial to you than a foreclosure or bankruptcy. So we kind of give that spiel, and are you serious about that? And so we do the touchy-feely aspect of it up front. Once that happens, are you serious? And the realtors really ask that question, are you serious about going forward? Because I don't want you to waste my investor's time because he's about trying to get transactions closed. And once they ask those kind of touchy-feely questions, but pretty straightforward, because at the end of the day, those gatekeepers, as we call them, they really control those leads. And then once you can get past those gatekeepers, at the end of the day, then it would be more beneficial for you as the investor to come behind them to get that successful transaction closed.
Great. Now, are you having your realtors look for properties that have seconds or first and seconds or thirds or, sans any junior liens, or medical bills or anything like that?
What I told the realtors up front, and this was a great key for me, and I know that from what Sophia and Jeff has taught in their programs and listened to the Howards of the world and yourself on the additional expert calls and that sort of thing, and just by osmosis for the most part, we know we're going after the $300,000 to the $3 million properties. But to build rapport, what I've done is I said, okay, bring me anything you can. I don't care what it is. So at the end of the day, we know that in this market right now, realtors are drying up like every other day. So if you can get agents on your team that you close deals regardless of the price point. And once again, I'm not going to try to do a $10,000 home, but if you give me a builder or a developer that gives me $10,000 homes, then that's something that's totally different. But at the end of the day, if you get that done for them and you build rapport up with that one or two closings, and they get a $1,000 commission check or $2,000 commission check, you have a friend for life. So that's kind of what I've done.
Right. And just to be clear, you're using a Margaret Snow for transactional funding, correct? So you're actually funding the AB completely separate from the financing for the BC, correct?
That is correct.
Very good student.
It's just very, very good business right now. I did have a couple other questions, Kevin. Are there any particular lenders you're having more success with, any other particular lenders that you're not having as much success with? Are you running into any roadblocks with any particular lenders?
As we know, Bank of America is the 800-pound gorilla in the industry, but I would say that the lenders that are most beneficial and easier to work with are going to be the National Cities of the world, the PNC or National Cities. You're going to have the Home X. You're going to have the city mortgages. You can get deals done with those individuals in a 30-day time frame. That's what I've been accustomed to. So, but the Bank of America and the SunTrust and the bigger banks, they're going to be the more time-conducive and process-driven institutions because they're just so swamped with deals.
Very, very true. No kidding, because those larger lenders have so many files. Some of those people have to decision anywhere from 15, 25, 30 files a day. So I really can't imagine what it's like to be on their side or in their shoes.
Yeah, I had the one negotiator that I got a file pushed through his SunTrust, and negotiator, I called her every morning, and that was my routine because we were ready to get this closed. Had a buyer that were paying all cash for a transaction. It was about a $210,000 property, and she told me every day she had 500 files sitting on the desk, and because once again we built rapport, she was able to get it pushed through. But they definitely have a tremendous backlog of files, and that's just across the board. So that was definitely the case.
It's so important to, build that rapport with the loss mitigator, and one way we've found to help develop that rapport is to submit a well-organized, clear, short sale package that's easy for the loss mitigator to navigate. Can you take a couple of minutes and talk about what you typically include in the first package that you send to the lender, and then how often and what additional information that you provide to the lender throughout the process?
Sure. After the list, once again, I refer back to, I'm a student of habit, and I refer back to the 9 deals in 9 days processes that I first started this system in about 8 months ago, when last March, April time frame, and stayed up some late nights just studying Sophia and Jeff's, literature and material, and looking at it, and just listening to the expert coaches and talking, and just hearing the different ways that the different coaches put packages together, where you page numerate, listening to Howard, just trying to get everybody's overall perspective, and which works for different people at different times. And at the end of the day, what I found is, as long as you have a complete package, and that can be anywhere from 25 pages up to 50 pages, the first package is going to go in. It's going to be the cover letter that's telling all the information, HUD-1, purchase contract. That generally can get a foreclosure house stopped from going to sale the day before the actual sale, even an hour before the actual sale, because I was successful on doing 2 of those. So that would be my first package that I would generally send out if there's some sense of urgency out there, which is number 1, a cover page, number 2, a purchase contract, and number 3, a preliminary HUD. After that is done, and I have the property in production, and I have my realtor on board, we get the listing agreement, all the financials, disclosures, and I won't generally send in a complete package until I have all of that information. And at the end of the day, I will add all of the additional financials, financial worksheet, hardship letter, exclusive listing agreement, any other bank statements, or if they don't have bank accounts, a bank letter stating that they don't have bank accounts, checking accounts, that sort of information. And I try to be pretty thorough in that, and I number each and every page, and I put the loan number, or I have a number stamp that I put the loan number on the top of every page to make mine stand out above everything else. And at the end of the day, I send all of that in, and it takes about 24 hours, because I generally try to, once again, go back to the 9 deals in 9 days type of process, try to send that package in at least 3 times per file, and it generally gets uploaded in 24 to 48 hours.
Fantastic. So you're finding that the purchase and sale agreement, a cover letter explaining the process, and the fact that you're trying to purchase the property, and you send a HUD to show how all the numbers are going to break down, and then I'm assuming in that cover letter you're saying, here's the initial information. I will be providing bank statements and pay stubs and tax returns and hardship letter and all of that in a follow-up package.
That is correct. Yep. I remember one of Sophia's calls. I listened to her once before, and she said she changes it up. So I experimented with that on that cover page. I said, well, it's a purchase contract and a HUD, financials to follow. Working with the homeowner, we're trying to prevent a foreclosure. Please postpone the sale date, or please make Kevin the contact for the BPO. So once again, I experiment with different wording depending upon, number 1, the urgency, number 2, how big the file is from a dollar amount, number 3, which lender I'm going to use. If I feel as though we're going to have time to market a property. If we don't have time to market a property, I try to put a complete package together to try to really rush to get an approval. or if I think it's not going to sell and I'm going to have to do a lot of price reductions with my realtor, I will definitely leave some information out so that they can stip me for that at a later date so that we can go forward and try to drag it out a little bit longer.
Okay. Now, when you're getting the initial approval for a postponement, and that's really why we got you on this call today, because we run into so many students that say, I don't have enough time in my state, or it can't be done here, or I've got to market to exclusively pre-NOD lists because, there isn't enough time frame. What you're doing is you are creating your time frame by providing a package, asking for a postponement. How often are you getting the postponement when you request one? And secondly, how long is that postponement? Is it usually a couple of weeks, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or indefinitely?
On that, number one, how often do I get a postponement on all my sales? About 97% of the time, 98% of the time.
Okay.
And that could be the day before sale. And that could be for a $200,000 property or a $900,000 home. I get postponements done. That is not an issue.
Okay.
Now, what do I generally market to? We generally market to the pre-NOD list. They've worked great on the second go-round that I've done them, but generally I've gotten a lot of great success on the NOD list where the actual sale is 2 weeks away. I was lucky. I got one builder developer. He gave me 15 homes at the end of the day, and then I took one of his main ones, and he gave me 13 of his other ones that he was going belly up on. So they're in production now. So once again, I've had success across the board.
Wow, fantastic. And then how long is the typical postponement good for? 30 days, 60 days?
That general initial postponement, I get it initially, is for 60 days.
Okay.
After that time frame, if I need to drag that out, I would ask for a postponement generally 24 to 48 hours before the end of that sale date, and they'll generally stip me, and I'm working with negotiators at that point in time to get the information that they need and just tell them that we're ready to close, but I'm going to need a postponement in order to facilitate the closing of the transaction.
Okay. Now, how are you actually requesting that postponement? Because the question we get a lot is, what do you say? Because you're saying, hey, we're eager to close this thing, but we want you to postpone the sale for 60 days.
I generally don't ask for a time frame.
Mm-hmm.
I've been lucky that most of the negotiators have given me 60 to 90 days, number one. Number two, I ask for it when I talk to the negotiator because they see us calling in or see me calling in twice a week. That's a repetitive thing. And
Mm-hmm.
once they know that I'm working the file, they generally, quote unquote, knock on wood, they have been giving me the extensions that I have been requesting.
Now, you're calling twice a week to simply get an update, or you're providing additional information during that call, or what is the guise behind you calling twice a week?
As I have been taught by, once again, the Jeff and Sophia program, the 9 days and 9 deals, it was like you need to call, get updates at least twice a week, hearing the other coaches and other teachers kind of talk on some of the other calls, and I just kind of said, hey, I'll just take the stance that I call twice a week, get an update on the file, let them know that the file is being worked so that once a postponement request is given, because at the end of the day, a computer program is not running all of this. You have physical touch points, and those physical touch points are when an individual sees that something is being given attention. It's kind of like the squeaky wheel.
Yep.
If you squeak enough, you're going to get attention. So you can escalate that enough, and, people will generally work the files that they see that are given attention to, regardless of the number of files that one negotiator has or may have. So that's what I found out to be in my case. Fantastic.
Awesome. Now, let's talk about your business structure for a minute. Who is on your team? I mean, do you have a whole bunch of assistants that are sitting back, making all these phone calls? Are you doing it? Let's talk about your team for a minute.
The team is me, myself, and I.
Wow, all three of you, huh?
Yeah, all three of us. I've kind of, I think there was a coach, and his name, he was part of Sophia and Jess program, and I saw him on video, and he had his daughter, and he said that he was going to work the entire process the first year from start to finish, just so he understood every process. So once he does expand or something on those lines happens, at the end of the day, stuff could just go well. And so I've kind of made the commitment to myself to say, hey, if I'm going to be all in this thing, I need to do it 100% of my time. So that was a leap of faith that I had to do. And, one thing led to another, and I was very fortunate to get some things closed relatively quickly that changed the paradigm of myself. So at the end of the day, I said I'll just do everything. I don't care if I had to wake up every morning at 4 o'clock, which is my general daily routine. Wake up at 4, work my files, and I don't stop until maybe 6 or 7 in the evening. But once again, it's a process that I've kind of started, and I wanted to understand everything from top to bottom, in and out, and now I kind of tweaked it to where I needed to be. So it's about growing the business now. So, but I've just done this now myself, all of myself, from that standpoint.
Right, and now other team members that you have are certainly 2 or 3 realtors that you've built a good relationship with and see the value of working with you as an investor, which is certainly good. And then you must have a good closing attorney. I speak volume about my realtors. I can call them at 12 o'clock at night, tell them I need something, and they will literally wake up, leave their spouses, and say, Kevin is calling, so I got to deal with him. So at the end of the day, it's a good thing because, I try to tell them I'm going to work for you, and I have your best interest at heart. I want you to have my best interest at heart. Because at the end of the day, if I'm successful, you're going to be successful. So that's a great dynamic. Mm-hmm. And my closing attorney, I can't speak volumes for him. I have an office inside his office. So right now I'm doing so much work. And at the end of the day, he just said, hey, you in here so much, so just pay a light bill or something. You got a desk over there. I said, wow, fantastic.
And that's my team. That's basically my team with my laptop and my realtors. So that's what we do.
Wow, that's great. Now you've built a team. You've gotten people to realize the value that you're bringing to the table, and you just for the other students listening, you've done this with 3 or 4 deals starting out. I mean, you didn't have to have 50 deals under your belt before you were able to build a successful team.
No. I originally started out 9 deals in 9 days. I read that manual back and forth, stayed up, listened to all of the coaching material for about 3 months straight, and I literally wrote notes of everything that Jeff and Sophia said, and I went back and listened, went back by trial and error. I didn't have the funds to go and buy, a coaching program or one of the coaches to go and do that. I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this. I've already had a knowledge of real estate, did that in the past, but this just really augmented what I already knew. And at the end of the day, I said, I can do this. And, one thing led to another, and here we are.
Right. And what was your experience before you started doing short sales?
Well, I used to be in corporate America, so I have, that whole belt under me. But, as we know, job market kind of dried up. Degree mechanical engineering, minor in economics, but I hated engineering. Did land development, did some other real estate, did rehabs. I did the whole, once again, everything that kind of like Jeff went through and talking about it, and him and Sophia kind of went through in the 9 deals in 9 days. I saw myself doing the same thing, going through the foreclosures, going through, all of the additional things, and I'm like, wow, this is an epiphany. What is going on here? And it was just hearing some of the other students saying that they were extremely in debt and had made some bad business decisions but didn't have the tools of the trade. I'm an old Carthan sheet student, so I go back to those same things that Jeff talked about. So it was but my background goes back to engineering, working in corporate America, traveling across the United States, but really not really controlling my own destiny, having to take the whims of other directions. And I had a restaurant, kind of did that whole thing, but worked ungodly hours for very little profit margin, and it was just, once again, it was a different life. So now I think that was my background, and so now with the short sales augmented, I already had a real estate background, but I just made a lot of bad moves. Didn't have a great vision, and I didn't find my niche. I found my niche now, so that's kind of where I am.
Fantastic. Now, are you still doing other deals aside from short sales, or you've just been really focusing on short sales?
Well, I think right now I wanted to focus on short sales. My first year in business, I wanted to have a great first year, and short sales has given me the platform to do the other deals, to do the commercials, to do the other business ventures that are out there. Because once again, I've been a lot of places. I haven't seen anything that can make the type of profits that this system gets you in such a short period of time with really no investment, cash, or credit from the individual. As long as you know how to put a transaction together and you can think on your feet, this is, hey, if you put in the hard work now, it's not for everybody. It's a lot of hard work. It doesn't come easy, but it goes back to what, once again, Jeff and Sophia, what I kind of learned from their process. If you work hard, you do 500,000 deals a year, you give 10% to charity or your tithes, you give 10% to savings, and you travel the other 10 to rest and relax, it all come together. So once again, I'm a product of my environment. So once again, I kind of had those two as my environment. So I just kind of took it from there.
Great. If you had to break it down, why do you think, why are you different from other people? I mean, there are probably millions of people across the country that have, in essence, bought a home study course like you did and either never read it or gave it a shot and gave up. Or, what do you attribute to your, you being a success in this business?
I think it's twofold. I think number one, because I've always been a self-directed type of person, that if I put my mind to something, I got to see it to the end. And I've always had a kind of a autonomous trait, meaning that I could just go out and just do something on my own. But number two, I think it's because it was a great process. I think just honestly that I was given a great process to follow. And if you follow the steps, there's light at the end of the tunnel. So I think a combination of you have to have the mental capacity to keep yourself on a straight path. But if you follow the processes that have been placed out there and you work it and you study it and you just implement it, you're going to make mistakes. But if you just do it, it's all about, following the process that Jeff and Sophia put out there. That's what was successful for me.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Doug.
So I was just going to find out if, I imagine there are students on the line that probably have questions. Do we have a moderator tonight? Do we have an operator?
Yes, you do. Sorry, my phone was on mute.
Oh, that's okay. Well, if you wouldn't mind going through the process for people to queue up questions, maybe you can start putting some people into queue, and then I think Sophia had a question.
Sure. If anyone has a question, you can press *0. That'll enter you into the queue and get you ready for me to get your name. So if you have a question, please press *0.
I wanted to make a couple of comments there, Kevin. First of all, this beats working for tips. So you're working about the same amount of hours than you were, doing the restaurant business. You still have a decent evening time that you can spend with your family.
Correct.
At home. So you're able to do that, and now you have control of your time. So if you had to leave to go see your kids play or whatever, you have the ability to do that, whereas if you were in the restaurant business, that might be much more difficult to facilitate.
Oh, without a doubt, because the restaurant was 8 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. That was every day, 365 days a year, 7 days a week, and the only time you had a break is when somebody could work for you, and at that time you still were thinking about the restaurant, but you weren't really, your profit margins were low because restaurant business was just that way. It was just sad. But at the end of the day, you kind of, that's a life lesson. You have to go down those roads to try to find out your place in life and what you can do to be beneficial from that. So that is great. It gives you time, and I can take off 3 days if I want to. I can have everybody to call a voicemail. I'm out, but I don't stay away from my phone all of 3 hours. I may take a break during the day and go shopping, go buy a pair of jeans or something and some new tennis shoes, and I come back and start it all over again. So yes, it definitely affords you the time and the flexibility to do anything you want to do.
That's outstanding. And how many deals do you have in queue now that are set to close for the next 60 days?
I have 4 that will close within the next 3 weeks, and I'm currently working on about 53 deals right now in my pipeline.
That's outstanding.
And you're doing it all on your own?
Yes, I'm doing it all by myself.
Wow, fantastic.
I just picked up a realtor today. I got 15 of her rental properties, and she's giving me another 10 from another developer that I've been fortunate. I've got a pipeline of great developers that don't know what to do. They can build them, but they don't know how to sell them. Well, you know what? I can do both, so that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, good for you. Okay, do we have anybody in queue?
Yes, we do. We have a question coming from Nicholas. Nicholas, go ahead.
And my question is, you started this on your own. Basically, that's my scenario. I've started on my own with didn't have the money to market the way I should have. So I have basically I went to realtors and just hit the streets and hit as hard as I could. I have found 3 different realtors, and they have given me one deal a piece basically, and now I have a realtor I'm currently working with that is about to give me my doorway to more deals. We've got a higher end property we're about to contract on, and question to you is how you dealt with it on your own. Did you have an LLC started? Did you start putting them in your own name at first, or how did you facilitate that in the beginning?
Well, initially, I'm sorry.
I said that was a great question.
Okay, I said, well, initially it is a great question because I played around with that on numerous ways, and I refer back to my entry into this business with Jeff and Sophia's 9 days to 9 deals process, and I was right on one of the first ones on a call and was listening intently, and I remember that Sophia said she, as her buyer, and I played around with that, and in that, because I had been in real estate prior to, and I had some, issues dealing with, like I said, the prior issues that all developers and builders and people, investors use foreclosure. I did not want my name out there, and I didn't have a person to put on my contract, so I kind of came up initially and listening to her, and then Sophia back and forth. So my methodology, my strategy initially was I came up with the LLC. So I have an LLC, that's a person's name, that's my buyer. So I'm authorized to sign on the contract for all of those individuals. So it helps the process go through the system a lot better, and I can control that because I'm the corporation to a certain extent. So I just started with an LLC. Initially, I used my middle initial and last name, but I said, you know what, I don't want a person, if I'm negotiating the files, I don't want somebody to try to, contradict me. Am I the buyer on all of these properties? So I just came up with an arbitrary name, started an LLC, and I'm buying properties in the LLC's name, but the LLC is owned by another company in the same token. So that's kind of how I did that. But once again, I went through that same thing, but I had to listen to Sophia and Howard and Jeff go back and forth of how they did theirs, and I came up with the best system that I thought would be beneficial for myself. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have our next question. It's coming from Edward. Edward, go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You said that you use the pre-NOD and the NOD list. Now, getting a pre-NOD list in my state is, or certainly my county, and I just work in my county. It's a pretty large county in Pennsylvania. is nigh to impossible. Getting the NOD list is problematic, but not at all impossible. How many foreclosures or NODs do you get come down in the course of a day or a week? And I assume that you get these on a daily basis and mail out to them.
Well, I'm fortunate in that, let me rephrase that. I'm not fortunate in that we get a ton of pre-NOD leads, because I can't say that the clientele on the other side of the fence, I'm not going to say is fortunate in that respect. From a business standpoint, the business that we're in as investors who buy pre-foreclosure and foreclosure opportunities, I'm fortunate in the state of Georgia that we have such a large volume of short sales. So from a pre-NOD list, you can generally get those, and you can buy. And once again, I refer back to Sophia and Jeff. They gave me several out of the 9 deals to 9 days category. They gave several list brokers to use, whether that was Cornerstone List or Teresa at Express 90 Day. There were a number of lists that they gave that I just contacted those individuals, and they sent me pricing out for the list. And based upon my geographical area and the zip codes on that pre-NOD list, I could have gotten anywhere from 1,000 names up to 2,000 names or 2,500 for a certain price, and that could range anywhere from $120 to $350, and you can go up higher if you want a more exhausted number of names on that list. And at the end of the day, we were just fortunate enough to have that number of lists. But no, I don't look at those on a daily basis because I don't have the time, to do that, to go to the courthouse to look at the pre-NODs or to do that. I generally get the list that I have purchased from one of those list brokers, and I would generally send out 100 to 200 at a time. Now, if I ratchet that back, I may only send out 35 because I got so much volume of leads coming in from other sources, but I would generally send out 100 to 200 names on that pre-NOD list, and I try to track that call volume back on a separate line or something on those lines. So
how often then do you send out your 100 to 200? Is it once a week?
No, I do once a month. Generally, if I buy a 2,000 name mail-out list on that pre-NOD list, my first batch I may send out at the beginning of the month of 150 to 200, and I want to see what my response rate will be out of that. Typically, based upon what Sophia and Jeff talked about, if you can get a 10 to 20% response rate out of that 10 to 20% response rate, at that point in time now, you can turn around and say if you can capture 5 to 10% out of that response rate, that may be 20 calls. If you get 10 calls out of that, marketing to 300,000 to $2 million customers, you're going to get 10 customers that's going to have a roughly $700,000 mortgage, 80-20, and we're going to specify that. So if you get 10 calls and you get 10 hard people that you talk to, you should be able to close 6 of those individuals. So
now, are pre-NODs public record in your state?
No, pre-NODs.
What do you tell these people when they say, "How did you get my name?"
And once again, that was something that I had to kind of use trial by error after listening to Howard explain it on some of the coaching students and listening to the forum, listening to Sophia. I kind of came up with a script that I used that says, well, I'm a local investor. My receptionist may have given me this list to get out. We may have contacted mortgage companies. We may have looked at tax records. We may have bought some lists for late pays, something on those lines, and we generally send lists out to individuals that may have a 80% first, 20% second, and if your name fell into that category, we would generally mail out to those individuals looking to purchase a property. And if your name is on that list, yes, we did send your mail out, and we would be very interested in purchasing your home. So that's kind of the speech that I give them. That's the soapbox speech that I give them.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time this evening. It's been very informative. I appreciate your call.
Not a problem. Thank you as well.
Okay, our next question is coming from Walt. Walt, go ahead.
Hello. Appreciate your help with us. You mentioned using a trust that you got from Office Depot or what have you, are you talking about a land trust or a family trust, or what kind of trust have you been using?
Well, I had experience with trusts prior to dealing with Sophia and Jeff, but they have an excellent option trust package that they were using prior to the installation of using quitclaim deeds and going back and forth. So my focus has been now on quitclaim deeds, but the trust documents and the trust agreements that I had prior to was just the living trust that Sophia and Jeff had on the website. It was the option agreement with the trust documents that were placed in there. But based upon what the gentleman asked in the previous question, there is just a general trust document that you can get from Office Depot or Office Max, a revocable living trust that allows you to do the same type of detail. Now, once again, I'm not an attorney, so you definitely have to talk to your own legal counsel in reference to that. But if you don't have the income or the initial thought process to do all those things, there's some ways around that. So that's what I meant by that earlier.
And our trust agreement, just so you know, that was online, is a land trust.
Correct.
And I've been working feverishly, and so has Jeannie Campbell, and we've gotten one created for Florida, and now we're going and checking other states. It's not going to work in every single state to use the trust documents. The most important thing to remember for that is the anonymity that you receive from using the trust documents, and it just it helps you facilitate sometimes seasoning and different things with MLS, and it just helps you with compliance, and that's the benefits of using the trust. It's also a benefit for the homeowner. It then takes the property, and in general at the courthouse, the heat is off them, so to speak, as the property is in that process. For some homeowners, privacy is a big thing. They don't want their neighbors knowing they're going into foreclosure and so forth.
Okay, so each negotiation would be with a different trust, and you just could call it 123 Main Street or what have you for the address that you're working with?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay.
Every property you deal with, you have to be specific to that one property with that individual trust. That is correct.
Right.
Okay. That just protects you and the property.
Good. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next question is coming from David. David, go ahead.
Hi, Kevin. Really inspired by your great inspiration, and big hello to Sophia and Doug. I'm a new person. I've just been in the system for 2 weeks, and I'm still learning. What's the best advice that you can give for someone who just hit the ground running? Basically following the system in 9 deals in 9 days. What could you suggest?
I would suggest that, number one, you get that binder, carry it everywhere you go, read it, reread it, read it again. Honestly, and that.
Amen.
That is exactly what I would have said.
If you do that and you refer back to it, because you can hear all of the tapes in the world, you can have all the education in the world, but until you understand that process for yourself in and out, somebody can guide you through it, talk you to it, but you're going to have to connect the dots in your mind with the overall process. And when I say production, in my terms, I have a production process now that I can just rattle off the top of my head from start to finish. And that production, I still refer back to the manual. When I want to, put things on the HUD, or I got to, put a grantor's tax on, or a local recordation tax change city can't. So there are a lot of little innuendos, a lot of tricks of the trade that you just got to know. And that manual has everything in it. That, from my standpoint, it allows me to really flow in and out. And I still don't know everything. There's still things in there that I haven't even touched, but I'm just on the tip of the iceberg. But at the end of the day, I've been successful in my space. Just read it, reread it again, and read it again. That's what I would suggest to you. And once again, because that's going to be the best. That's going to be your best teacher at the end of the day.
All right. Thank you. you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next question is coming from Ray. Ray, go ahead.
Hi. I got a couple of questions. Do you pay the realtor the A to B commission?
No. No, absolutely not. I was instructed to absolutely not do that. And Sophia and Jeff said that. Don't do that. So I kind of went with the flow, and after I closed transactions, I understood why. Because at the end of the day, you are contracting directly with the homeowner. The realtor is not engaged in that A to B transaction. So they don't have any bearing on that. You're doing them a favor by letting them list the property that you're going to make them a profit on. So no, you do not pay them on the A to B. You allow them to come in on a B to C and partner with you and to be a definite beneficiary of your hard work. And at that point in time, you give them the opportunity to be compensated on the B to C. And then at that point in time, if another co-broker relationship exists, then that's where they split their commission of that 6%. But if it's just them and they go get a buyer, yeah, you negotiate that 6% with them at that respect. But no, I do not pay them on the A to B.
Okay. What do you say to the realtors when you're starting to talk to them, or you call them? And what I did was I got a list of realtors that had, at then or in recent past, had a short sale, and so I called them because at least they had, some experience. What is it you say to them, and how do you explain the system so that they're willing to, forego the initial commission?
There have been two things. Now, are you saying that realtor has a listing that you're trying to get from them, or that you're trying to get some listings from them? Okay.
No, what I'm asking is, you look in you have somebody look up in the MLS and find name of a couple of real estate agents.
Okay.
Who have short sales that may not be going anywhere.
Okay.
But when you pick up the phone and say, "Hi, my name is Ray DeRocha. I noticed you had a short sale listing. I specialize in working with realtors to do their short sales." Okay.
And this is what I have found as a success for myself versus just, and I've went through this song and dance because I've had realtors take me in front of the board. They wanted to take me in front of their attorneys. They wanted to make sure that I was real. And so it's about, number one, building rapport, getting some successes behind you, and having people that you can refer to from your work that's been previous. And it's been a chore, but at the end of the day, you cannot let those no's or those doors close in your face. So what I found out is I tell the realtors that I'm an investor. I pay all cash for houses, and I only buy properties through short sales, and I would definitely love to purchase your property. And at the end of the day, I would love to offer you a higher commission on that. Once again, Sophia and Jeff taught me this, listening to their routine and listening to that, is that I would love to give you a 7% commission if you allow me to buy your property, but at the end of the day, I have to buy the property and I have to work directly with the seller. Now, granted, 80%, as I said earlier, I went through about 65 realtors before I got 3 great ones. You're going to get a lot of gatekeepers, and those gatekeepers are not going to want you to talk directly to their people because at the end of the day, they think they will lose out. But at the end of the day, it will benefit them versus the house going to foreclosure sale. So it's a delicate balancing act that you have to tell them. You have to find what works for you, and you have to definitely go forward and say, hey, I'm really interested in purchasing your property. I'm the great catch here because I can close anything same day up to $10 million. We can do closing the same day. We can make things happen for you, and we'll take all of the paperwork away from you. The only thing you have to do is concentrate on bringing the buyer to the table and making sure that we close this transaction successfully. So that's kind of my speech I give to them from a soapbox standpoint. So you just have to word it the way that you think it will come across as being most subject matter expert, as well as you're going to bring a level of confidence and credibility to the table that they're going to have a benefit of using you in their process.
Very good. who prepares the preliminary HUD? You came up with something that I thought was really super. You don't send them a complete package. If it's close to foreclosure, you send them the basics that says, hey, the rest will follow, but only if you stop the foreclosure.
Correct. Yeah. Number one.
Who prepares that HUD?
You prepare the HUD. You do that. That's your role. You would do that.
Okay.
You would prepare your HUD. Now, mind you, you may have a negotiator or something that may ask you about a closing attorney, and once again, or a title company. I don't know what state you're in, but at the end of the day, make sure you have a great person on your team that you can put his name on there, and or his receptionist or secretary, and you just double back and call them to make sure you guys have that great rapport. And that's the great thing about having a great team next to you, because you can use somebody's name and they know, oh, Kevin said, oh yeah, we're closing that transaction, and they know because of the success that you have. So at the end of the day, you have to have some of those pieces in place. But you prepare the HUD, you send that over, and you control all those documents. And you're right, that is a trick that I've had that is success to try to stop a sale. Give them a contract, give them a HUD, give them an explanation cover page, and you can stop a short sale postponement, even a day before the closing, a day before the sale. I've had success doing that on numerous times.
I think, Doug, we have time for one more question.
Okay.
There's no further questions.
Oh, okay. Well, that made it easy. Doug, do you have any more questions for Kevin?
No, I really don't. I would like to comment, Kevin. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us this evening, and I think you've been really inspirational for a lot of our newer students out there that are constantly running into roadblocks. And I think what you've successfully done is seen these, you see these little roadblocks, but you certainly don't let them stop you from doing your business. You just have trudged along and figured things out as you went along, and didn't sweat the small stuff. So for that, I commend you, and appreciate you taking your time to share your experiences with us tonight.
I appreciate you guys for having me on.
And I wanted to thank you, Kevin, also. I know that we didn't give you much, notice on this call to do this call for us, but I was so excited when Margaret sent over that report. And I think you have a lot of faith and a belief, and you put in yourself a work ethic that works for you, and you gave it all you got. And it is a system that if you work it, and it will work you at the same time, but you can be greatly rewarded for that, and you can make more in one transaction than you can in a whole year, even sometimes at a corporate level.
Correct. Yeah, that is definitely true.
So again, on behalf of myself and Jeff and all the coaches and the students on the line, thank you so much for being on the call. And look forward to getting a call from me this week. And also, you'll be getting a gift from Courtney. I really appreciate you